Hello, anatomy students. Welcome back. I'm glad that you came back for video number 2. Before we move on to some new information, the first thing that I want to do is talk a little bit about what the cerebral cortex functions are. So this is the same slide that we left off in in video number 1. And first of all, the cerebral cortex is going to exhibit cerebral localization, which means that various areas are going to be responsible for different tasks for the body. It's also going to exhibit cerebral plasticity, which simply means that connections in between neurons can increase as you learn new things. But the opposite is also true. It's kind of a use it or lose it scenario. So if you're not learning new things, then connections are going to discontinue. Remember that the function of each region depends upon the structures with which it communicates, and that no area of the brain is going to function on its own. They kind of need to work together as a team. So in general, the cerebral cortex is going to be responsible for localizing and interpreting sensory inputs, for controlling voluntary muscle activity, and it's also going to integrate emotional and intellectual impulses in order to process those to help us to respond appropriately to various situations. Now we're going to talk about the sensory area of the brain, and that's going to take place in the parietal, occipital, and the temporal lobes. So one area, one landmark that is important to us is the central sulcus, and this is the fissure in the brain that's going to separate the frontal lobe from the posterior aspect of the brain. First, we have our primary somatic sensory area, and this is the area of the brain that's going to receive impulses from the body. It's going to allow us to differentiate between light touch and pain and pressure. This area is also known as the postcentral gyrus, which is found just posterior to the central sulcus. Now, what this part of the brain is going to sense for us is on a very crude level. It's not going to be able to tell us what it is that is touching us. We have to wait for the impulses to move from the primary somatic sensory area to the somatic sensory association area, which is here in the lighter color green. So this is the area that's going to put more frosting on the cake, so to speak. It's going to tell us what is touching us. It's going to allow us to assign judgment to that sensation. A specialized area in the parietal lobe of the brain is called the Wernicke's area, or the sensory speech area. And this is where meaning is going to be associated to language. But this is not the only part of the brain that's going to do that. There's another portion in the frontal lobe that's going to help us with that as well. The visual cortex, or the primary visual sensory area, is way in the back in the occipital lobe, and this is just going to tell us that we see something, but we're not going to exactly know what that thing is until the impulses go to the visual association area. So again, when the impulses reach here, we're going to assign judgment, we're going to recognize maybe what these things are, or we're going to know that we don't recognize what it is that we're seeing. Here in the temporal lobe, which I'm going to put a red star on, we are going to process information from olfactory neurons, or the sense of smell, and also from auditory neurons, or our sense of hearing. In the temporal lobe and in the occipital lobe, remember that our brain is collecting information from specialized sense organs, our eyes and our ears and our nose, but not so much in the parietal lobe, in the primary somatic sensory area. Those are just very general receptors that are found throughout our body that are collecting this information and then carrying it over to the brain. This is your summary slide for sensory function. Somatic function, and remember, soma is the root that means body, so these are the receptors that are found within the body, and we are going to sense touch, pressure, proprioception, or the position of our body in space, and also temperature. And as I just mentioned, these sensations do not require complex organs. It's the special senses, vision, hearing, olfaction. These are the ones that are going to require specialized organs. And this is a summary of the flow of impulses or the flow of information through these areas. So information first goes to the primary sensory area for just the knowing that something is happening, like it's just picking up some information from these sense organs or from the body receptors. Then the impulses travel to the association areas. That's again where it's going, our brain is going to kind of put some frosting on the cake. It's going to add the details. And then it can go to other areas of the cortex for integration so that we can create a big picture and react appropriately to whatever that is. Next, we're going to talk about motor function, and the motor function is contained in the frontal lobe of the brain. So once again, we have our central sulcus that's acting as a landmark, and anything that's anterior to the central sulcus is considered the frontal lobe of the brain. Now, whereas in the sensory area of the brain, impulses came into the primary area first and then went on to the association area, that's not really what's going on in the motor area of the brain. First, impulses have to travel to our premotor area for organization, and then they are going to travel to the primary somatic motor area where these impulses are going to be sent out of the CNS and they are going to travel to the skeletal muscles in order to make them contract and provide movement for the body. So it's a little bit different in the motor area of the brain. It goes to the premotor area for organization first, and then it travels to the primary somatic motor area second, and then from there the impulses are going to be sent out to the body in order to produce movement. So the one thing to remember about how these impulses leave the brain is that they are leaving through tracts that are going to actually cross in the brainstem, and then they go out to the rest of the body. This crossing of these tracts is a process that's called desiccation. And what that means is that impulses that originate in the left side of the brain are going to travel through the brain down into the brainstem where they're going to cross over, and then they travel to the right side of the body, making those right side muscles contract. And the same is true as well. So if we're looking at the right hand side of the brain, those tracks are going to travel to the brainstem, they cross over, and then they're going to stimulate muscles that are on the left side of the body. So again, that word is desiccation. In your book talks about the anterior association area, and that's the same here as our prefrontal area. So this is also known as the anterior association area. This is where your personality sits. The seat of personality is what it has commonly been called through time. But it's also the area where higher levels of thinking, problem solving, memory, judgment, language comprehension. So this area of the brain is going to be working with Wernicke's area of the brain in order to help you to comprehend what other people are saying. And it's also going to be the place where you figure out what socially acceptable behavior is. So once your sensory areas of the brain are bringing information in from the body. They share it with the frontal lobe so that you can act on it. So the prefrontal area is also going to influence what's happening with the premotor area while it's organizing the different impulses that need to be sent out of the brain. And it's also therefore going to influence what's happening in the primary somatic motor area, um, so that the correct muscles are being stimulated for contraction in response to what all of these other sensory areas are telling us is going on in our environment. The last area that I wanted to talk about in the frontal lobe is called Broca's area, and this is responsible for motor speech. It's responsible for the muscles in your face, in your throat, that are going to form the words that you want to say. So Broca's area is the motor portion, and that should make sense because it's found here in the frontal lobe, which is where all of these motor functions are originating. Whereas Wernicke's area, or the sensory speech area, where the star is, this is where comprehension is going to occur. And remember, these two areas, the prefrontal area slash anterior association area and Wernicke's area, these are going to work together in order to help you understand what others are saying. This is your summary slide then for motor functions. Normal movements require many parts of the nervous system to work together. Remember that impulses are going to go to the premotor area first in order for your brain to organize the impulses that need to be sent out. And then they go to the precentral gyrus, which is the primary motor area, which is going to send out those impulses that need to stimulate specific groups of muscles. And this is especially going to happen in the distal joints, so where your arms, legs, hands, feet are located. Okay, just a couple more slides here. We have some integrative functions that I wanted to talk about. These are all of the events that occur between receiving sensory stimuli and sending out motor impulses. These are going to include some very ambiguous concepts like consciousness and mental activities, basically of all kinds, like memory and language and even emotion. Even just by the way somebody is walking around, you can kind of get a feel for what they're feeling at that moment. So these are considered integrative functions. And most of these are happening in an area of the brain called the reticular formation, or the reticular activating system, which is the RAS, Reticular Activation System. So what is this? This is simply a very diffuse or spread out area of neurons that's shown here in purple, and this is where your consciousness is. In fact, many drugs like barbiturates, amphetamines, anesthesia, these things are going to work by affecting the RAS, by suppressing it. And that's why these things work. That's why anesthesia works. When you get anesthesia, if you're going in to have a surgical procedure, you don't wake up because your consciousness is affected, because the drugs target the neurons of the RAS. And that is all that I have for you in video 2. See you in video 3. Thanks, everyone.